Hello Internet, my name is Ryan Ingram and I recently made a teeny little whoopsies which brought my real estate investing business to a screeching halt. So I wanted to share that mistake with you guys and tell you everything that I have learned on how to fix this as quickly as possible and teach you guys all about credit scores, how they're calculated, and all of the things that you need to do in order to get a high score and also maintain it. Now, of course, hindsight is 2020. I wish I knew all of these things just a few months ago, but unfortunately I did not. I cannot believe how negligent I've been in not educating myself on credit scores because truly, if you are in America, this score rules your life. If you fall off the wagon, if you mess up the score, then things become extraordinarily impossible for you. My score recently dipped down to the 500s. It was 594 last month, and we were in the middle of a refinance, a pretty big refinance, where we were refinancing about 12 to 15 properties, and we were going to pull out like $120,000 in cash on top of saving about $1,000 a month. It was a small credit union that we were working with, and they pulled my credit and it was done. The deal fell apart. They informed me that my score was in the 590s and that there is no way they would ever consider lending to someone in that score. Now, before this, I had no idea what I was doing. In 2014, I followed all the Dave Ramsey stuff. I paid off all my personal credit, closed all of my accounts. That is the last time I really thought about credit. And that is the extent of my knowledge about credit scores, was what Dave Ramsey said, which is never do it, you don't need one. Paraphrased. Taken slightly out of context. Probably wrong. Mad respect to Dave Ramsey. Listen to his stuff, don't judge me. So after I closed all of my credit cards, then in 2017, I got into real estate investing. I bought my first duplex in August, and I did so in cash. Now, shortly thereafter, I bought a second property, which I got a mortgage on. And me opening up this mortgage, my score went from 805 to like 770 because the length of my accounts is now less than a year. So at that point, the bank that I was working with said, hey, you're about to ruin your credit score. You probably want to open up some credit cards. And that was it. That was the only advice that they gave me. And I didn't research it any further. I just knew that my score wasn't going to be the best because all of my accounts were going to be new and I'm going to have tons of inquiries as I'm doing this real estate investing thing. But these past 2 weeks have been incredibly eye-opening when I was told that my score was a 594. That is what finally got me to look into this on a much deeper level and figure out what all went into a credit score, how they're calculated, and what I can do to fix it immediately, because our business model in real estate investing relies heavily on refinancing. So here are all of the things that I have learned. So ultimately, here is how your credit score is calculated. 35% is from payment history, so you have to make your payments on time. Now, since I'm fresh out of having a very low credit score, I would go so far as to say you should not eat, feed, or clothe your family until you have paid all of your creditors on time. And make sure you do that every month, because the biggest chunk of your credit score, 35%, is just from making on-time payments. 30% of the score is calculated using the utilization. So I did not have any knowledge or idea of this until just a few days ago. And what utilization is if you have a $10,000 credit limit, you should not use the full $10,000. They gave you that limit, but they expect you not to use it. So what I would highly recommend, and what is like the rule of thumb, is this makes up 30% of your credit score, and you should not use more than 30% of your credit limit. So in that example of having a $10,000 credit limit, you should not use more than $3,000. And that is the highest. You want to stay away from 30% if you can avoid it. But things happen. You need to use cards, you need to use credit. So what I would recommend as a strategy on this one is when you don't need credit, continue applying for more and asking for higher limits for the cards that you already have. So when you do need it, you are able to use more and stay under that 30% utilization rate. So just know that 30% of your utilization comes from making sure that you stay under 30% of your credit limit. Now, because I closed off all of my cards in 2014 than when I started applying for credit cards after I started in the real estate investing. Then compared to how much money I bring in, I had very low credit balances. So I know one card, I think my highest card is $8,000, which in terms of my monthly income is pretty low. So as it relates to my life, if I were to use that for anything significant, then I have very little room to work with because I don't have a very high credit limit. So my utilization is just completely thrown off as soon as I put anything on it. Since I'm being vulnerable with you guys and letting you know that I had a 594 score just a few weeks ago, then I'll keep up that trend and be transparent here. So I thought I was being really slick. My wife and I, we do not have health insurance. So we use what's called MediShare, which I highly recommend if you don't want to pay those marketplace prices. But in the MediShare, you pay for everything up front, and on all the eligible expenses, they are reimbursed. So what happened was, I thought I was being really slick in not tying up my own cash in these medical things. So we put them on the card, we put them on the card, we put them on the card. So of that $8,000 limit that I just mentioned, we had $7,000 of that out. Now, they're all on things that we would be reimbursed for at some point, but I just didn't want to tie up my cash in the interim. Well, my utilization was well over 90% because of the way that I did things. But now that I've learned that, I've paid them down. Now, inquiries make up 10% of your credit score. So if you're out there looking for credit, then let's say you are looking for one mortgage. Now, you are allowed to shop around. So let's say you reach out to 5 or 6 different mortgage brokers and they each check your credit. Well, that is only going to count against you once because you are just shopping around for one line of credit. So you're not going to have 5 or 6 different inquiries on your credit. They're going to consolidate those and it only be counted as one. This is primarily really thrown off if you are out there looking for credit cards, mortgages, new cars, things like that, and you have tons of different items being pinged, and all of these hard pulls stay on your credit for 12 months. So in any 12-month window, just be careful how many times you check your score or you're out there looking for credit, because these will count against you. But the good news is, unlike missed payments that stay on your credit score for 7 years, these inquiries only they only stay on your report for 12 months. And the good news is they only account for 10%. So even if you have just a tremendous amount of inquiries, it would only negatively impact you by 10%. So you could still have a pretty solid score with tons of inquiries, which is the boat that I was initially falling in. Now, length of credit affects 15% of your score, and length of credit means how old are your accounts. So the ideal length or age of your credit is 7 years. So 7 years is when the missed payments start falling off your score. So if you have 7 years of good credit history, then that's going to help your score tremendously. So if you have several cards that are, let's say, 1 year old, but you also have several cards that are 20 years old, then it's going to average out somewhere in the middle, which will put you over that 7 years as far as length of credit. And lastly, 10% is from the total accounts. So this is kind of counterintuitive. You wouldn't necessarily expect it, but the more credit accounts that you have, the more lines of credits, types of credits that you have, the better. So if you have a mortgage, a car, several different credit cards, maybe a line of credit, then that is going to benefit you. So let's talk about my whoopsies and what I did to earn a 594 credit score. So ultimately what happened was a local credit union that I work with, they didn't have, or I didn't think they had, a minimum payment option set up on their website. So I had a fixed amount, which was like $80. I put a $100 minimum payment just so that I was always good. However, once my wife and I put more medical bills on that credit card, then the minimum payment jumped up to, I think, like $190. So now, even though I'm making a $100 payment, I wasn't satisfying that minimum payment and I still had a $90 balance. Well, I had been in and out of the bank on several occasions, making large wire transactions, depositing big checks from some of our refinances. And nobody ever said, oh, by the way, Mr. Ingram, your personal credit card is late. Would you like to go ahead and pay that now? So I was a little bit frustrated at that. And the only way that I found out was because Mint, which I signed up for in college, sent me an email stating that I had a negative mark on my credit report. So I wasn't very happy, but at the end of the day, it was totally my fault. I should have been keeping a closer eye on all of those things. One of my good friends has often told me that success has a way of lulling you to sleep. And truly, I took my hand off the wheel. I stopped regularly checking my accounts. I just kind of let go. And honestly, I've been grossly negligent with understanding what went into a credit score. So now, this little incident has jarred me awake. I have learned a ton. I now know how to have a perfect credit score. And I'm not going to make this mistake ever again. So 594 is a very low score for someone that just missed one payment. So naturally and very obviously, I went wrong in several other areas as well. So let's just go down the list. Payment history. I now have a missed payment, which dinged me pretty good, but it only counts for 35% of the score. My utilization, as I shared, is extraordinarily high. I had $7,000 of credit out on an $8,000 card. That was not a good look. The number of inquiries, I bought my first duplex in 2017. I now have 63 rental properties, and we actually just put 10 more under contract. So in all of these properties that I'm buying, an immense amount of inquiries have also been put on my credit, because a lot of our properties have traditional mortgages on them where either commercial lenders or personal lenders want to look at my credit to make sure I'm a safe bet. So I've got a ton of inquiries. Now, length of credit, this is another way that I went wrong, because I mentioned I was doing this Dave Ramsey thing. I closed all of my accounts in 2014 and didn't start opening any lines of credit again until 2017. So I was trying to reach the pinnacle of, a Dave Ramsey purist, and I didn't want to have a credit score at all because I never wanted to borrow money. But then I learned about real estate investing and the power of leverage, and I really changed my tune. So now that I've changed my tune, all of my credit accounts are very, very young. So my oldest one is 2017, which is not anywhere close to 7 years. So nobody knows what my payment history is going to look like. So 15% of my score is very uncertain. And then the total accounts and the types of accounts, I have some mortgages on rental properties, not my personal home. We don't have car loans out. There are a lot of types of accounts that I wasn't and I'm not taking advantage of. So that one missed payment, along with all of the other things that I was doing wrong, resulted in a 594 credit score. My pen's not working, but that's sad. So this 594 credit score, like I said, brought my business to a screeching halt. I needed to figure out how to fix this, and I needed to figure out how to fix this fast. So I started calling around a bunch of other real estate investors that have, over the years told me that they have rebuilt and started over again. And I got a hold of one investor that let me in on this tiny little trick and not very talked about secret of kind of piggybacking on somebody else's credit score. There's several other videos on YouTube about how to do this, but nonetheless, I never heard of it. And ultimately, what this trick is if there is a parent, a grandparent, or someone that is very responsible and hasn't misused their credit in your family, you can get them to add you on as an authorized user. And what this will do is this will give you credit for the age of the account, for the utilization, and also the payment history. So my dad added me to a card that he has had since 1983. So once that hit my credit report, my average length of credit has just been quadrupled. It went from the past 3 years to now there is an account that is over almost 40 years old on my credit report, which is really cool. Now, as I've been talking about this to a few different other people, then I have been told that FICO has recently changed this, and not all accounts are going to allow you to take advantage of this. So as far as the utilization goes, fortunately, I have the ability, the resources to pay down tremendously all of my utilization. So I got this under 30% immediately. And also, my mom has a few different cards that have higher limits on them, a lot higher than my $8,000 limit that I have already shared with you guys. So she doesn't carry any balances. So now, even in addition to paying my utilization down, I'm also now going to get credit or the benefit of my mom's credit limit, which drastically improves that. In addition to the missed payment that I have, I also get now credit for the past 40 years of on-time payments that my dad has made and my mom. So that one payment, it greatly minimizes the impact of that one payment that I did miss. However, because I recently missed a payment, I'm still going to have 2 to 3 more months of that affecting my credit before it starts to become a non-issue again. I've heard as little as 6 months and as long as a year that will truly impact me, especially if I don't continue to make on-time payments. Now, for all of the people that think it would be extraordinarily weird to be added as an authorized user, or any parents out there that are apprehensive about doing this for your children, then let's say your child has been very irresponsible with the credit that has been given to them by some of these creditors. Then if you add them as an authorized user onto your account, then it does not negatively impact you. You do not somehow get associated or tied to your child with bad credit. However, they do get credit for all of the positive things that you have done with your credit and all of your good history. Vice versa, if you have phenomenal credit and you are added as an authorized user on someone that has horrible credit, then you are not going to want to do that. Let's say either of my parents misused their credit, had extraordinarily high balances, missed several payments, then it would be detrimental to my score to be added as an authorized user to those accounts, because it's going to bring me down, because all of those 40 years of missed payments are going to start showing up on mine, which is going to make my situation worse. So that strategy of being added to as an authorized user onto someone else's credit report is sometimes referred to as piggybacking. Something absolutely phenomenal that has happened is over the past few weeks, I've been working with the credit union that had counted that account as delinquent. After, pleading my case, understanding, yes, I do take complete responsibility for it, but this also wrecks my business, and just pleading and pleading and pleading and pleading and then pleading some more, they were nice enough to take that missed payment off of my credit report. So today I woke up with a wonderful email that said that my score has increased by over 110 points, which is how I went from a 594 to a 701 in just a few weeks. But I addressed several of these, and then the score is going to continue to go up as I get added onto my parents' accounts, and that starts reporting onto my credit history. So if you're interested, I might do a follow-up video on how my credit score has increased after my parents' accounts start reporting onto my credit. But nonetheless, through this entire process, I have realized that I have been very negligent on not understanding what all goes into a credit score and all of the variables that I have control over and that I need to constantly monitor in order to put myself in the best possible credit score position. Because especially when you're dealing with a lot of finance like you are in real estate investing, then this score is truly your lifeline, especially on a lot of these deals that I'm explaining, where I'm not putting any of my own money into these deals, but I expect a bank to refinance out the same amount or more on some of these properties that we're buying. And in these conversations I've had with other investors about the credit scores, I talked to one guy that's a mentor of mine. He's got around 90 units here in the area, and he said that if you are starting with little to no money, then your credit score is absolutely your lifeline to prosperity. He said you need to understand this score in and out and guard it at all costs, because doors start closing up tremendously if you misuse this. And I got to experience this firsthand, which honestly has me shaking in my boots. Because as soon as that delinquent payment hit my credit report, I had 2 different credit card companies send me alerts letting me know that my credit limit was just slashed in half, which dramatically impacts my utilization. One credit card company was mean enough to slash my credit limit to like $900 under the balance, which honestly I think should be a little bit illegal. But fortunately, today I was able to give them a call and get that reversed, because we got that delinquent payment off my credit report, which was the sole reason that they did that. So because I have just learned all of this over the past 2 weeks, and I truly just felt my world closing in around me, once I had a less than desirable score. I realized that your credit score is an absolutely imperative piece of this financial puzzle that we're building. So I thought it most certainly deserved a place in this Millionaire by 30 series. Now, I am not an expert in this by any means, but if you have any questions, want any clarifications, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would be happy to help. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for allowing me a platform where I can be vulnerable and actually talk about these things, and also share my personal experiences that might be of some benefit to you. Thanks so much. Can't wait to talk to you guys soon.